So what is composability, Joel?
Yeah, well, I mean, so as we've talked about sort of the history of it, we've mentioned this already a little bit, but the idea is we need to be able to put together the solution that's right for a particular problem by combining multiple systems together. And almost always one of those systems is going to be something for content, so it's some kind of headless CMS. But beyond that, what those other systems are, it depends on you and on the solution that you're trying to come up with. The things that we want to look for in these kind of solution of the parts of the solution is they need to be modular. They need to be, hey, this thing does solves this piece of the puzzle. So it could be, obviously CMS solves the content piece of the puzzle. There probably is going to be something that solves like the search piece of the puzzle. And as you kind of work with a customer or work through your own solution, depending on kind of who you are and where you are at in your business, what you need is going to depend on, or it's going to determine what those modules are that you kind of need to bring together. Each one of those things should be self-contained. It should be stateless, and so they don't have to be too tightly coupled together. Decoupled is a thing that we've talked about a lot of times. Sort of, you don't hear that as often anymore, but certainly composability should have multiple systems that they don't even necessarily know that much about each other, except how to work well together. And they need to work well between APIs. So those APIs are the things that allow the components to talk to each other. And then when we want to swap something out, when maybe it doesn't work for us, where maybe we pull, for us, we're in a new CRM and new marketing automation tool, take all that stuff out of the way and put it in and reconnect the APIs, kind of like Lego blocks a little bit. And what's really nice is when you can do that without having to write a lot of code. That's what I really like, is when it's well defined enough so that the APIs are easy to swap out. Usually you need a little bit of code for an API, but sometimes you don't need anything because there's connectors built into these tools. So they do know a little bit about the other kinds of tools that they're going to connect to, and you can have a connector that's built into that. And that's what I really like. And I think we're going to see more of that in the future. Certainly that's what we're working on in Agility.
Yeah, we're definitely early days of composability in terms of those connectors and things like that, but they're coming out much faster between platforms. I know we're launching our marketplace shortly, which will have a whole bunch of those type of things and build a whole framework for that. A lot of other platforms have kind of done those similar type of things. But one of the really key components of this summary that I want to highlight, that I think is the most powerful part of why composability is becoming successful, is that last few points there of the definition: to satisfy specific user requirements. So the idea is people are coming in with their user requirements and able to pick the different components, bring them together, and each one of those components satisfies their needs. And versus monolith platforms in the past, where this one component within that monolith may work very, very well for my business, but the other part may not. And you're kind of stuck within that system, because generally monolithic systems are difficult to replace one component, or if you're doing that, you're hacking into your code, you're breaking something. They don't want you to swap those things out. So I think that may be a transition for monoliths going forward, where they may start to build in their system in a way that they can swap things out, but they're still a monolith, and that'll be kind of a hybrid between monolith and composability. But that's kind of a future idea of where those platforms really need to go if they want to stay competitive. Is my view of these, the way it's going.